Well, it looks like I'm live, and it looks like I'm live 2 minutes early. Well, in our last session, we completed this fairly, I guess we should actually look at it here. This fairly bodacious shot. And now we're into the next shot, as I'm sure you guys are not shocked to discover. Hey, Darren. Okay, so let me recap. I started to make a video to upload a couple. Well, was it yesterday? It might have been yesterday. And the concept. Here's the backdrop. The backdrop is we've got, and I want to move this over here so I'm keeping track of things better. The concept is that I started out the entire sequence with a storyboard, obviously, and then started packing in a bunch of layers to deal with color, ink, blah, 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 blah. So once you get to this point here, if we turn this layer on, if you get to this point here in the storyboard, for the most part, all of the assets that will come to bear on the scenes, you know, from about the halfway point on, are pretty much going to be able to reuse assets from the first little batch. So, with that in mind, I was thinking, well, I got through this sequence, why don't we jump to this one? And I was thinking about this little bit where he turns and notices Golik. So in the storyboard, there's really only two drawings, this and this. And the question was, okay, what can we do to get from one to the other efficiently? And as you guys know, I work typically at 8 frames per second because it's, you know, a full-length cartoon and there's a lot of animation to do. Got my tasty beverage, by the way. Haven't had a beer in like over a month, so that's kind of nice. And it's interesting because there's a lot of ways you could approach it. The cool thing with Krita is that, and actually working this way, is a few things that one might want to consider. One is, if I render out the whole storyboard, then I have, especially if I turn the sketch off, and probably the backgrounds too, if I render this out, then I have all these assets that I can pull into, well, obviously Krita, but also maybe Tahoma, maybe Blender. It just depends on the shot, what the needs of the current shot are. For this particular shot, which is of course this little bit right here, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to take the character layer that contains all these constituent layers with the color and the shadows and all that. Why don't I just cut and paste these two images into a new Krita scene and go from there. And so it was quite interesting because I used, well, I put in a dummy layer to add these eye blinks. I cut and pasted the eyebrows out into their own layer so I could use Liquify to move them around. And then I basically just took the Liquify tool, moved him a little bit, and then applied motion blur, and then snapped him to this pose. Then I stuck in the lip sync and a couple more eye blinks to, you know, sort of punch it up and give it to life. And the net result was, this is a 4-second long shot that took, golly, half an hour, you know. So, I was going to post this as a uploaded video, and then I realized I had done something stupid, which is that the pose I started with at the beginning of the shot is actually the wrong pose. It's not supposed to, this is not the guy. This is the guy. this pose that I started with was actually supposed to be a moment of surprise before he turns. So that was kind of dumb. So I realized, okay, I gotta go back and put this first sequence in here first. So what we're going to do today is go ahead and put in this little bit that opens the shot up, and then we'll go ahead and what we'll do is we'll just tag it on to the beginning of this sequence here. So I'm going to double click here to select the entire all the layers that are in the timeline get selected if you double click. Then if I hit Shift Alt, I can drag the whole kit and caboodle. Well, okay, unless Krita doesn't work consistently. There we go. Move the whole kit and caboodle downstream. Okay, now we need to work out the timing though. What he does is he goes, excuse me, he, by the way, hey Ross, hey Tom, are the audio levels are okay tonight, I assume? I've got the microphone a few dB hotter, and I'm speaking a few dB softer. So the two together, it should be pretty good. Let me know if there are issues. Okay, so what we need to do is we're going to jump to this, and the basic timing of it is he's looking at the bed. He's going to blink probably a couple times, and then he kind of comes up. He says, oh, God, like, what does he say? He says, okay, I have to confess, this is a little embarrassing too. The first line that made it into the, well, this is quite enlightening. Something about the process of going through from the storyboard, thinking of the things that might want to improve, or creative ideas that I have at the storyboard stage that still, that getting it into the script, it looks like didn't happen. Now I'm looking at the PDF, and maybe if I look at the actual script file, nope, by golly. So sorry guys, I gotta put a line of dialogue in here, just because it drives me crazy to think that I have an inconsistency in my script. So bear with me. I'm putting in, what he does is he says, oh God, you are a messy boy. That's really about it. So I should put in a tisk tisk. Like, you are a messy boy. And then Golik actually walks in to the doorway behind him, and that's when we get the bit that we just saw there at the beginning. So just so that I'm not going crazy, I'm going to actually save that as a PDF, but I'm going to reference the document. So hope that makes sense. I'm sure it's probably boring. Yes, I noticed that too. I'm not sure. That's a very good point. If we I wonder about the let me look at my recording devices, because I don't think I have the the microphone's set at 88. Let me set the microphone to 100, but turn the level on. Actually, that's probably not going to work. But turn this up, but then roll this back a couple dB. It should be about the same level, but the question is the hiss any less? I'll bet you it's not, because the in fact, I'll tell you the truth. You know what I should do? If I really want to solve this, what I should do is, see this microphone here, the shotgun, is it uses, it's a digital connection with a relatively, I think, probably decent preamp. And I'll bet you if I change my advanced audio properties, if I change my properties to use. Check, check, check. I'll bet you the hiss is gone, isn't it? Let me know, Tom. The hiss is okay. Well, you're saying the hiss is not less with the change that I made um, in the audio levels, but is it less now? Now that I'm actually using the different microphone? If it's not, that would be kind of surprising. Actually, the audio should sound. Yeah, the audio should sound. So right there, you've got a pretty hot level, and it should sound slightly boxier because we're using the shotgun. Does that sound about right? I mean, is the hiss any less though? Hiss completely gone. See, that's what I thought. Yeah, the shotgun, right? It's just because the preamps that are built into a computer's basic sound card are crap. You know, they're pretty awful, very noisy. So yeah, great. Okay, so we'll just kind of keep using the shotgun, and I'll bet you, I'll bet you that the levels are really good too. Now, pretty hot, but no hiss. That's what we want. Okay, back to work. I might have to make a couple adjustments here to keep the microphone sort of out of my way without, I think in the past what I did was I probably had it hanging, well no, but that would actually be better. Use it like a good old-fashioned, old-school shotgun. That'll keep it out of my way and should be a good hot signal. That's the same. This is the same microphone I've used for multiple feature film. You know, on location, either on a boom or sometimes mounted to the camera. If I'm using a really short lens, then you can actually mount the shotgun on the camera, and you can have a fairly wide shot where you're actually only about 2-3 feet away from the actor. You know, it's amazing. Speaking of which, it occurred to me yesterday, because vis-a-vis the conversation we had a couple days ago, I was talking about speaking more softly and trying to exercise that lower part of my voice, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to repeat all that, but when we were watching Fringe the next day, it occurred to me, it really brought to mind Michael Caine's book, which is called, I think it's called Acting for Film. And Michael Caine, it's a really interesting book because Michael Caine's goal in the book was to clarify the differences between stage acting and film acting. And he really emphasizes the fact that for film acting, you want to have confidence that the camera loves you and everything has to be much more muted in film. Anyway, we were watching Fringe, and it was almost like the light came on for the first time. I realized that through this show, Fringe is just the show we are watching right now. You know, we always watch something together every day at about 3:30. And I realized that most of the dialogue through the movie, you know, every once in a while somebody gets loud, but most of the dialogue through the movie is about like this. I mean, the actors throughout are speaking really softly. It's kind of similar to what you see when you see a close-up, when you see two actors in sometimes an over-the-shoulder shot. One thing, if you ever get into this, you'll discover that if you maintain the kind of distance with another actor that you would maintain if you were really talking to them conversationally in the real world, you'll find that the actors look like they're a mile apart from each other. It looks ridiculous. It doesn't work at all. The next time you watch a show, pay attention when you see a close-up where the actors are like an over-the-shoulder shot. I'm trying to look at the camera. I'm having to reverse it to see. So this would be actor number one, and this is actor number two, and they're talking to each other. You'll find that the actors are like scary close together. I mean, they'll be 10 inches apart. They're nowhere close to normal social distance. in the sense, not social distance in the sense of the political correct term, but in the sense of the normal distance you are when you're talking to somebody. If you want it to look right on film, you have to put the people like crazily close together. And then it looks right. It just looks normal, you know, in a movie. So, anyway, kind of interesting. Let's get to it, shall we? So what we're going to do is we're just going to start conquering this one bit at a time. And that means that the first thing we need to do, why don't we just put this shot, this pose, let's just put this in Control A to select all, Control C, and let's just go here and Control Shift Insert. I'm sorry, wrong. Control Shift V. Okay. The eyebrow layer, gosh, I'll say for the moment, we need to label our layers, but yeah, for the moment we'll take it out. And we'll name this Care for Character. This I have no idea what it even is. Oh, that might be his mouth. Yep. Okay, so let's label our layers. Don't be a fool. You need to label your layers, or you'll regret it every time. And also, by the way, I'm noticing that the eyebrows are not pinned to the timeline. So that's something you want to be aware of. In Krita, if you cut and paste, you're going to find that the typically, near as I can tell, when you cut and paste into Krita and it automatically creates a new layer, it is not going to, by default, pin that layer to the timeline. If you just click plus and create a layer, as you can see, it is pinned to the timeline. So Krita is a little inconsistent in that regard. So now what I'm going to do is in the eyebrow layer, I'm just going to go ahead and take the, well actually I can see a mistake now. I see a problem. Because it wasn't because it wasn't pinned to the timeline, the eyebrows layer did not get appropriately ripple edited. So what I need to do is grab just this and go Shift Alt. Let's make sure I've just got that layer selected. This should fix it. Drag that to there. Okay, now we're back to normal. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so now what we got to do is work out the timing. So he's going to be, and by the way, I actually think I got the wrong layer in there. Or the wrong drawing. Now, obviously, you could just tilt the guy. It's the same freaking drawing, right? So, I guess, I think I'm going to go ahead and just cut and paste it, though, because, mainly because I don't want to mess with using Liquify to clean it all up. So bear with me, friends. Now I'm going to go here and go Control Shift V. There we go. So that's the way it's supposed to look. So now what we have to do is see if the timing's right. So he's like blink, blink. Yeah. So this is way off. This whole sequence probably needs to happen. Okay, that's okay. Krita. Again, Krita's hopelessly inconsistent in this regard. But that's okay. We're getting along. Okay, so I'm going to take this and now just be careful to make sure you actually selected all your layers, okay? So let's make sure the animation here is as advertised. Okay, now, so back to here. Blink, blink. Oh, like you are. Okay. Go back to here. Okay, so now let's turn on the skins, because if we're gonna have him make this move here, actually, you know what, you guys, I can see something that's got to be fixed. So there's good news and bad news. The bad news is everything I did the other day, this has all got to be redone. Not the lip sync and not the eyebrows, but as far as the actual frames that I cut and pasted in and then did some liquify on, that's all it's got to be redone. Good news is it only took about 20 minutes. The bad news is I got to do it because actually the ink on this guy is wrong. You can see the difference here. It's lighter and it's a little thinner, and that's my fault. Well, obviously it's my fault, but the reason it happened is because when I did this, I didn't know I was working on the actual shot. I was actually trying to create that video that I was going to upload. It's just moving fast to demonstrate how to use liquify and a little motion blur to do very rapid snap and hold animation. And I got through it, and then I'm like, wait a second, I mean, this actually looks pretty good. I mean, I just use it in the show, right? Well, I could have if I had cut and pasted the whole layer grouping, because then I could edit the ink lines, but as it is now, I really can't. So, no big deal. I'm going to redo it. Okay, so the concern at the moment is the timing and the dialogue, and because of where this is, obviously we're going to do another snap and hold, and we might as well do it right now. Okay, here's what that looks like. Hit the A key. We're going to go into liquify mode. We're just going to do that thing where we make a very small change. And I actually I'm gonna split the difference and put in two tweens. So what I'm gonna do is control drag this one back and do the opposite in this direction, because I want to pop him up a little bit. Okay, the question then becomes, should we motion blur this one? Answer, probably not, but let's consider. We got to clean that up, obviously. So we can do it. Let's save our work, and then we'll apply some motion blur to these two. And the chances are it won't work because 2 frames of tweening at 8 frames per second tends to be too much. It just goes too slowly, right? So I think when I did it, I did something like that. So we'll just put it in there. Whoops. Oh, come on, Dave, really? Undo. Control F to repeat an effect. Okay, so now let's just see what that looks like. You'll have to imagine his blink. So it'd be like blink, blink. Yeah, you know what? I'll take it. I think it's fine. Okay, so that was good. Pretty quick. Little bit of liquify. So remember, if you want to do snap and hold, and why would you do snap and hold animation? Snap and hold animation is predicated on 3 things. Number 1, economy. How do I get the most entertainment value as cheap and fast as possible? Because there's a lot of work to do. In fact, by the way, I'm like, as of yesterday, I got the contract back from the distributor for Salt and Light episodes 1 and 2. So I don't know, probably 3 months from now, it should be out on all the major platforms. But the next 30 days or so, I've got a bunch of work to do. I need to generate the, I got to generate the closed captions. That typically costs about $1 a minute to get it done right. I'm going to have to generate the trailer, you know, promotional art, blah, 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 blah. So there's a bit of stuff to do, there's no doubt. But hopefully it'll grab in the real world more than it has just on YouTube. Okay, now another thing that came up when I was working on this stuff that I'm going to go ahead and reiterate now because it applies is, okay, we're going to have this blink blink for sure. Blink blink, boom. But we need a blink there. If you're, okay, so actually I told you number 1 reason for snap and hold is economy. Number two, there might only be two reasons. It's predicated on the idea that when you're doing limited animation, if you're trying to do a Seth MacFarlane thing or you're trying to do a Matt Groening thing, most of the entertainment value is in the subtle acting, and it's the eyebrows and the eye blinks and the sudden, he blinks and then he looks, and then when his eyes open again, he's looking over here, and he's, it's those, obviously Seth has built a career on the implicit humor in the awkward moment. That is the entire basis of 3/4 at least of the humor in Family Guy. It's the basis of a great deal of the humor in shows like The Office, right? Which was, and that trend in comedy was really begun with Arrested Development, actually. I don't know if that was in the 80s or the 90s. So, but the idea is that if most of the entertainment value is in the periods of time when the actors aren't moving, then what are you going to do to make the characters get from here to there in the most entertaining way and economical way possible? And what I find is snap and hold is the way to do it. Hence, he's going to go blink, blink, and then to the new position, do his dialogue, and the whole thing just feels good, Now, there's another thing to note here. When I redo this, what I was going to do is take this pose and move it a little bit over to the left, but I think I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go ahead and go forward with this art that looks good, and then when I repaste the next, it's only 2 drawings. Everything here is only 2 drawings, so no big deal. When it's all said and done, we're going to get about 12 seconds of show out of 4 drawings. That's insane. I mean, that's really insane. So Ross, it's really not fantastic. The show concept for Salt and Light was originally pitched to the distributor 2 years ago, and the reason I went ahead and did it was because, we basically agreed that it seemed like a decent idea, and the revenue projections that my distributor gave me at that time were sufficiently compelling to say, okay, it's worth doing. Hence, I think I mentioned it here on the channel, about a month ago, I said to Dave, my distributor, his name's Dave too, I said, okay, well, what do you think now? I mean, you got 2 episodes done, you've reviewed them. And the market's evolved. The market's evolved enormously in the last 2 years. It's incredible how much the market's evolved. And it's still finding its way. So I asked him if he thought his projections, I was almost sure that the projections would be revised down. And he said no. He said, no, I mean, it seems like projection would be the same. So I'm like, okay, well, let's get it out for distribution then. So I really want to emphasize that for you guys. If you have any aspirations or illusions, either way, depending on the person, about creating something for the marketplace, other than on YouTube, If you're going to create something for the marketplace, then you do need to be creating long-form content. That's all that you have on TV, okay? So you've got to create a half-hour show. But if you do it and you complete it, I can say with pretty good confidence that unless it really, 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 really sucks and is not entertaining at all, then getting distributed is really not that difficult, actually. I mean, let's face it, distributors need content. They need it bad. It'll be fantastic when I get the royalty data 6 months from now. That's when it'll be fantastic, or it'll be disappointing. We'll see. Okay, so anyway, back to snap and hold animation. Point is, we need, if somebody's going to move like that, typically they're going to blink before they do it. Okay? Therefore, let me check something here. I think when I did it before, I just baked it into the, I just did it directly in the shot. So what does that look like? It's this. It's so simple, it's stupid. Watch this. Just erase this. Just paint over it. Gone. Gone. All gone. Click the eyebrow, color. That's it. Okay, now, see, you're always going to have an eye blink before a move. It's just, that's what people do. Okay, so now what we need to do is go here, hello, control, drag, and in this case, I think I want to do 2 of them. So now I'm going to take this frame here, put it after, and now we have our awkward moment humor. Okay? Because he's basically looking at Golik's bed and it's like a complete mess. Isn't that crazy? I mean, that is economical animation right there. There's just no other way to put it, friends. That is economy. If it wasn't entertaining, then it wouldn't be worth talking about. Doesn't matter how economical it is if it's not cool. But this is cool. This looks cool. Okay, so now once he gets up here, we need to have a blink as well. So, okay, so let's do it like same way we did before. We'll just, what did it take, 1 minute? Let's find out. Stop. I must not have hit the B key. Okay, yeah. So let's find out how long it took. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, 15 seconds to get your eye blink in there. Wow, pretty hefty price to pay, huh? To make the character come to life a little bit. So if you're not using eye blinks liberally, you're a fool. Alright, so now let's go to the mouth layer and let's just do our typical anime pattern. Alright, so I want to look at this layer. Okay, I see what I did there. So here, what we're going to have to do, let's insert a key. And then I think what I'm going to do is actually steal, yes, I'm going to steal the ink color. Yes. I mean, I might have to tweak it a little bit. But all we need to do, in other words, adjust the color slightly. Okay, this guy talks kind of fast. So he's going to be kind of closed, a little more open. Kind of closed, a little more open. And now I'm going to hit the erase. Almost closed. And then this is your anime pattern. Open. So it's like 2 cycles of this with one almost closed mouth stuck in the middle. And what that does for you is it gives you lip sync that can be translated to any language, and basically it's going to work. It just works. Oh, God, like you are a messy boy. Okay, Look at that. Isn't that crazy? So now get a feeling for the acting here. We already saw this, right? So he's off doing his thing. Okay. And then it'll cut to this. Oh, golly, you are a messy boy. The idea? It works. Okay, so now I'm going to insert a key here on the mouth layer to get rid of the mouth shapes entirely, which means that we have a back to the default mouth shape. So I love it. I think this looks, I don't care what anybody says. I think it looks great. Okay, so now we obviously have a problem. So let's save this. And step one is to go to the character layer, and we need to repaste into it. So I'm going to just go Control A and just delete that. So there's nothing in that layer now. All right, let's go back to here. Get to the right pose. And that's interesting. I am going to actually check something here. S key. I'm curious if the that ink there looks correct, whereas here it didn't. That looks bolder. So I wonder if I fixed it after. I don't remember doing that though. That's kind of weird. Well, let's find out. We'll go over here. Question that one might ask oneself at this moment is, does Krita, if you have a selection, like for example, if I take this selection, okay, and cut it into Tahoma, Tahoma is going to take whatever was selected, basically draw a bounding box around it, and then center that, horizontally. Will Krita center it? Or will Krita put it off, put it where it belongs relative to the rest of the frame? The answer is, I don't know. I can test it by pasting Golic in, actually. So we'll go Control C. Let's do a quick test here. So now if I go Control Shift V, okay, that's interesting. Control C, Control Shift V. Weird. Wait, cannot transform empty layer. Who said anything about a freaking transform? Let's see what happens if I hit Control V. It paints nothing, or it pastes nothing. So something's going spectacularly wrong here. Ah, that's what's wrong. I'm in the wrong layer. Apparently Golic is baked into the background. My bad. Control C. Makes sense. Control Shift V. Okay, it did put him where he belonged. So that's good. Okay. Let's go Control X, Control V. We're going to need Golic in there shortly anyway. Okay. So let's just put that in the background and we'll turn it off because we're going to be coming back to it. We're going to need that shot anyway. In fact, that's the only drawing of Golic we need to do this whole sequence. So, okay, and you can see what just happened. As I said, because it was cut and pasted, it did not. Okay, see you, Tom. Oh, Tom, that's an option to have transform open on paste. And you're saying when you paste to Tahoma? Or are you talking about something, because I know you've been spending more time in Krita lately. So is that an option in Krita? And I just happen to have it set to the default or whatever so that it doesn't, transform it. Anyway. Actually, that sounds like that's a Krita thing. You're talking about the fact that when you paste something in to Krita, it immediately goes into transform mode. I think that's what Tom's talking about. He's not talking about the positioning of it. I'm pretty sure. So anyway, the point I was going to make is that the Golic layer is not pinned to the timeline, which is, to me, I think every layer at all times should be pinned to the timeline. And if you specifically ask for it not to be, that's another thing. Okay, so now I'm going to go Control C, and right here in the character layer, Control Shift V. Okay, now this is interesting. I thought I clicked on this a moment ago, but maybe I didn't. You want to make sure you're in the correct layer. Control Shift V. Okay. Now, what I want to look at, oh yeah, that is the correct ink. So I don't know why the ink was darker, because I don't remember cleaning it up after I pasted it in, but I must have. So there you go. Pretty crazy. So this is going to have a new eye blink put in. So let's just rock and roll and do that right now. Obviously, guys, you could, and I'm going to actually clean this little bit up. There's a bit of mess in here. It's not, most of it you probably would never notice really, but it's somewhat egregious to my finely tuned artistic sensibilities. So I'm going to fix it. Okay. Here, what we're going to do, the fact that that's a little darker probably doesn't matter, because it's an eye blink. It's only going to be on the screen for one frame. And in point of fact, there's an argument to be made for making it as easy to see as possible, because it does go by so quick. Well, that's going to have to be thickened up anyway, so. Cool. And punch that up a little bit, and now let's see what we got here. Okay, yeah, so what we want to do is we want to grab this, push that there. I'm deliberately allowing a little bit of that to, this line down here to stay in there. Okay, and then obviously this is incorrect. That was fixed before I had to re-paste it in. Okay, so now the problem that we have is that this guy, if these three frames were pushed together, so it was really just one continuous movement, it would make a little more sense. Let's see how that feels real quick. Okay, I'll go with that. I'll go with that. That's fine. That's what this drawing was intended to be in the first place. So I'll take it. Feels good. Okay. Now, one thing I want to look at is the eyebrows. The eyebrow. Okay, now we're going to have a problem. Because look, let me show you this. This is one of the dangers of cutting and pasting and moving fast. See that? What that means is if I need to change the color of the eyebrows, I'm going to change the color of the skin that's kind of baked into there. So obviously you could clean it up, but probably in this case, here's what the solution is. The solution is to The solution is actually to just paint the eyebrows out completely in the character, and then make the eyebrow layer slightly transparent. That will fix it. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit the S key and I'm going to make a selection right around here. Control C, and then I'm just going to, I know that backfired, but that's okay. It mostly worked. It mostly worked. Not quite all the way. We'll just clean that up. Okay, cool. Now we can put the eyebrows back in, and then as you can see, if we make the eyebrows, not the character. Yeah, see, look at that. We'll just crank down the opacity a little bit. Now later on, is this going to backfire in some way? Highly likely. But we're going to have to cut and paste these other poses in here anyway. So obviously, I am going to turn his mouth off. I don't want to be confused by erroneous layers right now. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the character, control, drag. This is supposed to be, and I was correct, this actually belongs here. Yeah, so now what we need to do is just make this into an eye blink. If you're having a hard time following it, I apologize, friends. The important thing, not to be insensitive or anything, but the important thing is that I can follow it. Since I'm the one who's got to do the work. So, are there any questions from the peanut gallery out there? I suspect not. Whatever I'm doing generally just isn't actually that interesting. Either that or it's totally self-explanatory. Okay, now, with the motion blur in there, do we even need to repaste that? Nope. What we need to repaste is this one. Okay, so I'm going to go Control. Well, I'm not going to go Control Shift X. I'm just going to go delete. Just get rid of the pixels. Okay, so then we just need to come back here, and this is what we want. Boom, boom, Control C. By pasting it in, obviously, we've just flattened it. And now we can turn the mouth. Well, let's just do it this way. For those of you who are going to be confused, I am going to literally remove this poor guy's mouth. Yeah. Now was the mouth baked, or I'm sorry, the mustache baked into the mouth layer? I don't know. So we'll have to check that here in half a second. Okay, let's turn the mouth back on. Okay. So what I'm going to have to do is make a correction here, and then backfill that particular frame to where it came from. Yeah, I think that'll do it. So we'll take this and drag it back here, and then this mouth obviously is grossly deficient. So I'm going to actually just erase it because I'm looking at, yeah, okay. Interesting. We are going to have a problem here. We're going to have a color problem. So what we're going to do, friends, is we're going to take all of this and get rid of it. We're going to completely redo the mouth through that whole section. Okay, so having said that, we might as well actually, yep, here's what we're going to do. We're going to re-cut and paste. And for those of you who find this enormously confusing, it will all make sense in only a few brief moments. Okay, why? Because look what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is turn the mouth layer back on, which, as you can see, contains nothing there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to hit the S key in the character layer, and we're going to use this as our basis. Cut it out and cut it into the mouth. Look, in the days of classic animation, right? If you love Disney or whatever, you know, it is that you love. This is what you did. You took a drawing and you split it into pieces, and you made it work. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut and paste this back over here so I can change the mouth. Okay, so if we're going to take the mouth out and start with this, then the appropriate course of action in the character layer is going to be to just, turn off the selection. I'm not going to try to draw the mouth in here. I am going to clarify the mustache a bit. Okay? Erase there. Okay. Then we turn the mouth back on. And this mouth needs to be a little different. This one needs to be erased. Oh, come on, I hit the E key. Krita didn't catch my hotkey. Krita, you silly goose, you. I'm going to make that just a tiny skosh darker. And then just use my flesh tone to clean it up. Okay? Now, what I did here before, I need to actually liquefy that just a little bit. Might as well get it right early rather than late. Okay. Now what we're going to do, actually I was going to use a standard transform on that, anchoring it up here. I don't like that at all. I wonder why that is. Think about that for a minute. I guess it would be scaling it the whole time. Yeah, so I'm actually better off to liquefy this. And then just grabbing my brush and, oop, that's not quite dark enough. Now we could obviously clone these cells, and there is a case to be made for that. So you'd go clone keyframes and paste keyframes, and here you'd go same thing again, clone keyframes, paste keyframes. That way if you change one of them, they all get fixed. Okay, and then here, I'm gonna just take this and having a hard time finding the sweet spot here in my positioning. It would probably be, I mean, some of you are screaming at your screen saying, geez, dude, it'd be easier to just redraw the darn thing. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Boom. Let's see what we have here. Okay, that's just a blink. So I think we must have had 2 cycles of this. And then what happens if we take it out completely? Well, we would have to come back to this. So in the script, he says, Lord Golick, back so soon. Okay, I'm going to put in the script. Cut to wide. Okay. Why? Okay, I see the problem. Yep, we got to redo these eye blinks. 1, 2. I guess I didn't need to copy both of those, but yeah, these are supposed to be eye blinks, and there was a problem with the drawings here downstream that was not, because they actually were not the same as this one. So fix that. Okay, actually, friends, we've got to get Golick into the picture. We've got to do a background. But other than those pesky details, I think as far as salute goes, I think the shot is done. Blink, blink. Oh, Golick, you are a messy boy. Golick, oh, how? Okay, oh, okay. Yes, and that's why he says, Lord Golick back so soon? Okay, yes, I forgot I had. When I did this before, I put a little pause here. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 frames, see how that feels. Lord Golick, back so soon? And I think this last one probably should stretch 1 frame. Back so soon? Okay, and then he wheels on Golick, and he looks a little concerned here about himself, but he's really not. That's a little bit of sleight of hand. Golick, you are a messy boy. Oh my Golick, back so soon? Okay. Cool. I think things are working. Anything strange going on in the chat or anything? Inio-san is here. Okay. Well, obviously, we do have to do the background. But it must be said that to get, I mean, essentially most of this I've redone. So that means in an hour and 16 minutes, less than an hour and a half, we've got 10 seconds of show. If the background was already done, it'd be, oh my gosh, it's like ridiculous. And to be fair, the last shot I did, this bit here, once we got into doing the, you know, adding the lighting effects and stuff like that, the whole shot really, I mean, just punching up the look of it had to have added an hour to the production. In total, that this whole sequence was about 4 hours, I would say. About 4 hours to do everything, including painting the background. So, not horrible. But, hey, thanks, Inyo-san. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, when he turns around, yeah, this is going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot could be done with this shot because he has the moonlight. This shot's going to be kind of fun to do because if you think about it, I'm going to call that beams. We've got go like here showing up. Yeah, he shows up here. So we're going to have a wall in front of him so he can appear in the doorway. No big deal. But let's see what we can do here. First of all, actually, I'm in the wrong shot. I need to pull up the, what is that, number 24? That's 25. I think that's it. Yeah, okay. What I'm interested in here, for my purposes, I'm going to grab this. Cast shadow and reflection doesn't need to be in there. I'm going to go ahead and grab this. I mean, this is going to take a bit of work, but let me paste that in there. Oh, I didn't want to paste the group. That's all right. I'm going to merge the group. Okay. So the only reason I did that, actually, you know what? Let's get rid of that. I can see what we need to do here, actually. Let's go here. Let's start looking at some of these layers and what they're doing. Yes. You know what? I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually steal this because it's going to require some work because obviously the point of view is completely different. We've actually flipped around. But what we could do now is we could, because the floor is the same, obviously. So what we want to do is put this floor underneath them. Yes. That might be a little too, because we have to be able to see this is probably not making a lot of sense for you guys. I get it, believe me. Okay, so I'm going to do a few things here. First thing we're going to do is sample this color and yep. Okay. Now we're going to solo the layer and let's just go in here and manually fix this. Oh, come on. B key. I just want to paint out those crimson. Oh, come on. Seriously? Sample the correct color, you fool. Okay, obviously things are going to get darkened a lot compared to what we're seeing here. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my little paintbrush and actually deliberately create some ambiguity at the border between the floor and the wall. Okay? Okay, now we can kind of punch that up a little bit. Okay, 5 key, N key, unsolo it. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to put the wall in front. So I'm going to hit I'm going to use this same color because they're going to wind up getting color corrected differently. And probably the easiest way to do this, if that's where Golik's going to end up, then what I'm wanting to do, okay, and actually, you know what? Let's make this slightly darker. Quite the opposite. Everything's going to wind up getting darkened. So I just want to be able to tell the colors apart. Okay, so now we're going to have a problem, obviously, in the fact that this layer obviously has to be in front of Golik. So it's got to be, this is kind of interesting. I always find these bits a little bit difficult. I don't know if it's a dyslexia thing or what it is, but okay, that was not quite what I wanted to do. But yeah, I just want to chisel. I want to line that up and then chisel that out. There you go. Now it's lined up properly. Okay. So this layer, we'll call it wall, has got to be in front of Golik, but behind Salud. Okay? Now, we won't do anything with that yet. Let's just kind of take a step back here and see what we've got. Golik appears. Okay, so let's go to the Golik layer. We're going to do this as simply as possible. Okay? First thing let's do is let's put Golik in a group so that we can cheat one thing a little bit. First of all, I don't know if I'm going to clearly show his feet. But if I was, why is that? Oh, no wonder. Oh my gosh. B key, sorry. Okay, but if I was, I would want them to be a little bit kind of blurred. Like that. So just go with me on this. Go with me on this. Okay. So I'm going to put that underneath there. And then if we're going to follow this through to its logical conclusion, it seems to me you would also have a bit of a shadow underneath Golik, wouldn't you? Okay. So we're going to take that and we're going to blur it. So the way I'm thinking about this right now is all I'm really concerning myself with is just getting the elements in there. We can always color correct stuff, you know. It's easy to color correct stuff. Okay, and think about this. What would the lighting be? I'm assuming the hallway would probably be kind of darkish. So for now, let's just keep it simple. Let's just keep it simple. That's a little too sharp, but I mean too blurred. Whatever I say, I meant the opposite. So the way we fix that is we go into the alpha channel and we just clamp it up the contrast in the alpha channel. Okay? Boom. Hello. Yep, something like that. Now, having said that, Golic himself is a little on the bright side, friends. That's better. I don't mind baking that in. Okay, so now the question becomes, what are we going to do with Golic? Well, we probably should name our layers. What is this? Cash out? Oh, that's a feet. I'm going to... I mean, geez. Do I really want to animate his feet? I guess we'll leave open that possibility. Okay, save that. Now, this is important. All of these layers need to be pinned to the timeline, and they all need to have a animation frame here. Okay, so back here. Okay, so now this is where we get to. So now what we're going to do is we'll animate Golic and then run the keys in reverse because he's walking into the doorway. Okay. All right. So these three layers need to be grouped together, and let's call that Salud. And let's save our work. Okay. The background, I know it needs to be darker. What I want to do is use my airbrush. Like that. Maybe put a little bit of a blue cast in the foreground because it's going to be catching the moonlight, and then we're going to look at overlays, just going to kick up the saturation, which is not what we want. So we need to tone things down, something like that. Okay, now obviously this wall, we'll make it a group so that we can, you know, if we want to add layers, we can, which does seem to make sense to me because, okay, I want to hit undo because I don't even know what I just did. Grab a layer, and then let's use this to vignette the whole shot. Okay. Yeah, again, let's go Shift Alt N for normal. Let's just leave it in normal mode. Oh, I'm sorry. Those hotkeys for changing the mode, change the mode of the brush, not the mode of the layer. So that was a mistake. This needs to be put in normal mode. Then let's just roll it back and kind of dial it in. Okay, so then that's what this layer was for. This beams layer, we're going to take the airbrush, and basically there's a window in front of this guy, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to do something like that so that this can be kind of dialed in after a fashion. And then Salud obviously is way too bright. So I'm going to just say, I'm just going to do this the old school way with an airbrush. And then we will alpha lock it. And then use that to dial him in. In his case, actually, overlay, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Burn, no. Probably the right answer is to use, and actually let's tamp that down a little bit more, is actually to use the normal layer to get the level down, but then what you could do is we could, where's my clone layer? Add a clone layer. So add a clone layer, alpha lock that, and so in the clone layer we can do overlay mode. Okay, so if we turn this off, you can see that we can use the clone layer to dial in, kind of darken him and kick up the saturation. So that really kind of punches him up nicely. But then, and then this layer should probably actually be on top. And then we'll use the normal blend mode layer to just bring his level down. Then having done that, you can see where the beams may wind up being kind of useful. Okay. Well, this is a more complex shot than normal because you've got these multiple layers of stuff. Okay. So this might not make all the sense in the world, but filter, Gaussian blur. I want a big blur on that, like that, so that I can just, get the tone under control, right? We'll call this tint, and we'll call this overlay. Because now that I see that, I'm wanting more from the overlay layer. I think I'm going to crank that up and then actually tamp this down. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm playing with it. I'm not sure I'm loving what I'm seeing here. It's okay. It's okay. This is basically shadow base of wall. Okay, now that we've got that, why are these groups called group, group, and group? BKGD. This needs to be called Golic. Come on now, you can spell. And what the heck is this? This is the wall. Okay. Save, save, save. Wow, that's crazy. I don't even want this in here anymore. Now that seriously, dude? Oh, I see what happened. Okay. This needs to be alpha locked. Once I see it, in context with the lighting in the room and everything, he doesn't need to be darkened like I thought he did. Okay, not gonna give too much thought to the what I might want to do in terms of decorations in the room at this point. What I do want to look at is what we've got going on here on Golic. Let's take this off. Okay, yes. So this whole shot would be easier if I had groups of groups, actually. The way I'm doing it, I'm making it a little more complicated than it needs to be. If that doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. The point is that Golek yeah, honestly, you know, the mistake I made was darkening Golek. I'm kind of regretting that now. I don't mind a little bit of an S curve in the shadows, but you know, I'm kind of losing my guy here, you know. Yeah, it's better. Cool. All right, so what are we gonna do with Golek? Well, all of his layers have an animated keyframe, so that means let's see. One step is half a second, so it probably stands to reason that what we want to do is take these 4 layers and copy them here. What is this one? I'm going to take that out. I don't even know what that is. Okay, so this puts him there. Oh, I guess I did do that wrong. This needs to be here. Well, maybe not, actually. Okay. And so now the idea would be to split the difference from here to here. Split the difference, and then a little bit of a jump. Split the difference, a little bit of a jump. Okay, now we're going to take all of these frames and hit mirror frames. Get it? So the problem here obviously is his feet don't move. I'm not going to address that right now because I really don't care about it at the moment, but that is something we're going to want to address at some point. Okay, so I'm feeling like I'm going to definitely keep this, I'll just call it borders for lack of a better idea. And I'm feeling like some kind of muted yeah, kind of a muted rust color is what I'm feeling there. So I'm gonna actually, whoops, that didn't work. Doesn't it? It doesn't constrain. In other words, I'm not trying to make this look really, really well engineered or whatever. It's supposed to look rough. It's supposed to look hewn by hand, if you will. Handcrafted. And besides, if it's off a little bit, I can always just chisel back into it. Solo that, sample that. So you guys will have to go with me on this. Sometimes this kind of stuff looks pretty crappy at first. And you gotta kind of get it all chopped together before it starts really making sense. Hey Maria. Deedrat's birthday. I'll echo you the birthday wishes, although I assume that's some famous historical person or something. I don't know what Deedrat is, but I will happily endorse your birthday wish. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to actually shrink this down a little bit. Punch it over here. That's not enough. Not enough in this case. Usually you don't need that much contrast, but in this case it's kind of demanding a little bit more. I'm going to just take Salud out of the out of the shot for now. As I say, I want this to look kind of rough, like a modestly talented slave put in the trim. Because that's probably what would have actually happened. And I'm just assuming back then they like to have their doorways kind of similar to the way we like to have our doorways these days. I don't know. And stop everything. Oh, I see. I see what I did. Okay. Well, okay. I'm going to take that. Chisel that down. And then this is a part that's always a little bit funky. What are you going to do? I don't know. Let's put in a little shape here. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. This would be a good application of this. Okay. As I say, by using this brush, it's forcing the edges to be a bit rough. So I'm just going to assume he's got some kind of doodad around his door that kind of means something. And I'm going to say that the doodad is decorative. It is actually three-dimensional. And so you've got some basically artsy-fartsy stuff on the door hardware. So we're just going to go with it. We're just playing with stuff, you know? Look at that. We're assuming that it would catch some of the light from the moonbeams that are coming in the window. And now you can see the problem. So I think I'll go back a couple steps. I think I'll not push my luck here. So we'll turn this back off. Okay. I feel like it definitely, well, I can see a real problem here. It's like, dude, how sloppy can you be? I'm sorry, people. I do my best. I do my best. Okay, French philosopher. Okay. To publish the encyclopedia. Nice. Okay. So, as you can see, this is the way these shots seem to be going, is that I hate to say this. I hope you guys don't think I'm chimping out, but my honest thought here is that if I do not animate Golik's feet, no one's gonna notice, because when I keep going like this, you're looking at you guys can argue with me if you disagree with this, but I think I'm right. Is that you're looking at Salud, and right there is when your eye realizes you're seeing something behind him. So this guy has your attention, and by the time you move your eyes to go, oh well, let's see what's going on in the doorway, he's already landed, because it all happens in half a second. So my sense is that it's a bit of an optical illusion, but if you're looking at Salud, you kind of feel like you notice his feet moving, but then it's really weird. Your eye goes to Golik about halfway through the motion. You guys see what I'm saying? So I don't know that animating his feet really matters here. Okay, now there are some things here that are a little problematic. For one thing, the shadow obviously needs to be fixed here. Okay, so let me see here. Yeah, so here we've got the shadow layer. And what we have to do, friends, is... Well, exactly. Yeah, well, that's for sure. I just feel compelled to... oh, it's the cast shadow that I'm supposed to be working with here. I just feel like when I'm making a command decision that feels like I'm kind of chimping out, sometimes I am chimping out, right? In this case, I feel pretty strongly that the way I'm reading the scene is right, and so I just want to explain it so people understand. I'm not trying to be a total slop hog here. It's just that if it's almost like 90% axiomatic that no one's eyes will ever go to this region until it's too late, then it's stupid to waste energy animating it, you know? So I just want to make sure that was clear for people. Because, as I say, I'm not trying to be too much of a messy Marvin. Okay, so on the wall, I would say this is too strong. And this needs a little bit of tender, loving care. Meaning that I want to punch up a little bit. But the overall, yeah, that would probably be appropriate. I don't know. I actually think something like that. But at the low end, the saturation should probably be cut down. And arguably on the high end, it might, well, that won't work. So there's other ways to monkey with this. But yeah, I definitely want more contrast. So the main problem is now that these highlights along the edges are a little too aggressive. Okay, hope that makes sense. So I'm going to switch to a nice sharp brush so that I can draw rectangles in erase mode. So what I'm doing is I'm going to just judiciously chisel this little mofo. Oh, I didn't really quite get it. Hello? Okay, well that worked. Okay, now that's interesting. That is quite interesting. Okay, guys, I'm actually gonna wrap up here shortly. But yes, I was noticing, I'm gonna actually put these borders in a group and add another layer above it so that I can just paint over top of it and see what happens. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna alpha lock this layer. I'm just gonna wing this. I'm gonna hit the B key. And I'm just gonna do this by feel. Probably I should take Salute out in order to get the spacing a little more sensible. I'm just trying to add some noise. Just add some noise. Okay, and then, gosh, what mode do we want for that? Overlay would cause it to pick up some of the underlying color. And then I'm actually going to add an erase layer. Watch this. This should be interesting. This is definitely going to be interesting. Don't ask me why. This isn't supposed to make sense. Okay. This is just like what looks interesting, you know, on this border work. And you might disagree. You might think it doesn't look interesting. I don't know. But I'm just like, you're not going to be looking at it. You know, it's one of those things you just kind of feel it in the back of your mind because you're going to be looking at the characters. So it's like, what can we do to just punch this up a little bit, you know, just kind of make this a little more interesting. And when I accidentally erased a little piece out of it, it just kind of looked interesting to me. So, what can I say? So I'm just going to break. Now that I didn't like. That was too much of a good thing there, Jack. And the interesting thing about this is what you'd really see on the wall would be, let's filter this with a Gaussian blur, pretty big one, and then let's clamp the, okay, that didn't work. Maybe it's the alpha we need to clamp. How is that bleeding over it when this layer is on top? Oh, wait a second. Okay, good example of why you really want to name your layers as you go. You will find yourself over and over working in the wrong layer. So this is the erase layer. No, it's not. That's the copy layer. And why does this say copy of? This is the erase layer. Okay, that's weird. That's almost like Krita got its naming wrong. That's really strange. Okay, so this is going to be called Deco SHD. Okay? Yep. And now what I'm going to do, this probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but what I want to do is I want the RGB level to be really low, and for some reason that's not doing the trick. Well, this, oh wait, that's the erase layer. Okay, bear with me, friends. This is starting to drive me crazy. So, darkening this isn't doing anything. So let me look at the alpha. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. Holy cow, that was... Sometimes it just takes a while to figure out the right thing. Okay. Now, this is very strange. Why would this... Oh, because it's in erase mode. We've got two layers that are in erase mode. Okay, things are starting to make sense around here. So if we put that under there, that didn't work at all. The erase layer totally falls apart. I've painted myself into a corner here. I've gone in a direction that is starting to outlive its usefulness. So, with that in mind, I'm gonna apply another blur because I don't feel like that blur is extreme enough. And then we're going to rethink because if you have the, yes, if you had that shadow in there, it's a little confusing because the shadow, it's because of the way the erase layer is affecting. Well, first of all, the erase layer is not that interesting, so let's just get rid of it. So there. I think my brain's getting fried. I think I've been at it too long. 2 hours. Yep. 2 hours on one thing, and I'm running out of gas. So that's fine. It's probably time for a break. So with that, I think I will wrap it up and just kind of see what I've got. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. You're welcome. Thanks, and you're welcome. All right, guys, I'm going to kick it on out of here, and